This video I'm going to share my thoughts on Chuck Norris. I actually got this idea from somebody that contacted me from California asking about my thoughts. I thought that it'd be nice to share those thoughts on camera. I don't want to bash on him unnecessarily, you know, um, just because I do hear a lot of people bashing on him and things like that. But these are some of the things that I know about him, and some things that I don't really know too much about him. There's limited information, and based on that limited information, I'm gonna give my opinion. So, what I know, he was a friend of Bruce, and I believe that, not for certain, but I believe that he had his fame. He was well established as as somebody that practiced martial arts before Bruce became established. Like, he had a fan base. Practitioner of karate, very successful in the karate tournaments, brought him opportunities to be in a lot of movies, TV shows, brought him worldwide attention, worldwide fame. Was a friend of Bruce, sparred with Bruce, helped Bruce become even better at what he did. I think it was because of him that Bruce decided to start to kick high, and not limit himself to believing that only low kicking is good. I think it was because of Chuck Norris, it was Bruce that decided to start training and kicking high kicks as well. So spar with Bruce, was a friend of Bruce, was in a movie with Bruce, and played a great, participated in a great fight scene, one of the greatest fight scenes on film ever made. So those are a lot of positive things about him. And for the most part, I wouldn't say he's a violent person. I'd say that he's trying to promote, throughout his career, trying to promote something positive in the martial arts. Even though that he participated in karate tournaments, for the most part, he's trying to promote something positive in the martial arts. There's only one book that I read that from him. Is one of the first books that I read, when I was younger, and during the beginning years of my study in the martial arts. I think the book was called The Secret Power Within, and that was a good book that gave you a good introduction to the spirit of the martial arts. Very simple book, not too long, give you an introduction to the spirit of the martial arts. And he had a lot of positive things to say in the book, and he at least had knowledge of the spirit of the martial arts. He's not just all combat sport or all just about hurting people. So, and obviously being friends with Bruce and working with Bruce shows that he, has that type of energy that Bruce himself acknowledged to be something positive that he wanted to be a part of his life as well. So these are some positive things about Chuck. Now, as far as some of the not negative things, or things in my opinion, he's not somebody as, in my opinion, not someone as charismatic as Bruce. Not somebody that, in my opinion, has great skill in his expression of the techniques of the martial arts. And even his book was not all that extraordinary either. So his expression in the martial arts, to me, is just not extraordinary. I wouldn't say average, because the average person knows really not much about martial arts at all. Of course it's above average, but it's not extraordinary. So for example, anybody can play basketball, but not everybody will make it to the NBA. Most people will not make it to the NBA. And for you to meet somebody face to face that actually plays in the NBA, that in itself is rare. But even more rare is somebody, like, not just getting to the NBA, but expressing their talents to the level of LeBron James, Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, to that level, that is extremely rare. So what I'm saying about Chuck Norris is that his level of development in the martial arts is not nearly to the level of where it can be if he, at extremely high level. He's not like one of the greats. He's just somebody that made it. Just like, became successful. Somebody like Chuck Norris and Steven Seagal and Van Damme, they're pretty much, in my eyes, they're all pretty much in the same boat. It's people that are not that great at the expression of the martial art techniques, but they made it. They made a lot of money. They got worldwide fame. People know who they are. But they're not like extraordinary. They're not somebody that is highly inspirational. They're clearly not like a Bruce Lee. So then that's pretty much it. For the most part, I see that he's trying to promote something more positive in the martial arts. But as far as like having that deep understanding of the spirit and the philosophy in the martial arts, I don't think he's really there. Based on the limited information that I do know, I feel that there's still a strong ego there. But he agreed to participate in that movie with Bruce, and he agreed to lose the fight. And that in itself is something that is very humbling for him, and something that is very respectable. That he put his reputation on the line to enhance that movie. Because he was already well known, he already had fame, already had money, he didn't really have to do that. Now somebody like Joe Louis, who was a very successful kickboxer during Bruce's time, was asked to be in a movie with Bruce to lose a fight, but he refused. He's like, no, I'm not going to lose a fight on film to like a skinny ass Chinese guy that weighs 125 pounds. He's like, no way. But Chuck Norris is like, you know what? I'll lose the fight. I will support this movie, and I'll put my reputation on the line to basically, so we could come together and create some beauty in the martial art expression. So I give him much credit for that. I give him much credit. And it's everybody's opinion which martial artists they like, which ones they don't. The most popular, people in the world, they're not necessarily the most talented. They're clearly not the most talented. And not in all cases. For example, Michael Jordan is very popular, but he backed it up with an immense amount of talent. But that's sports. That's a little different because that's more competitive. But you look at something like Michael Jackson. He's well known around the world, but does that mean he's the best singer in the world or the best dancer? You can't say that because it's really subjective to what you really appreciate. There's all sorts of singers, all sorts of dancers, all sorts of different expressions. You can't, Tupac had talent, he was really well known, but does that necessarily mean he's the most talented rap artist in the world, to ever live? You can't say that. It's just all subjective. So, with Chuck Norris, he doesn't really draw me. He's not somebody that draws my attention. He's not somebody that inspires me. The book that he wrote was a decent book. It's a good introduction, but it's nothing compared to like Lao Tzu, Osho, Bruce Lee, people that, Buddha, people that I really have been inspired by. He's just a part of the crowd of people. There's like a crowd of people that serve to be an inspiration, but then there's a selected few that really are like a huge part of your development. He's not part of that selected few. He's a part of the crowd. And that's pretty much what it is. There's not going to be that many people that are going to really impress me because my standards are pretty high. And when you set a standard that's really high, even though there's people that are talented, but they're not quite at that level, it doesn't really move you too much, because you know that it could get much better than that, because you already have such high expectations. So I'm not bashing on him. I'm just, stating that, from what I know, this is how I feel about him. To me, it's not nothing big. Because really another thing is, he's one of the guys in Bruce's era, and he's about to die. I mean, not about to die, but he's getting old. And really the old school martial artists, if Bruce was still around, I think a lot more people would respect what he has to say, as far as his opinions and what he feels should be the correct path in the martial arts and its expression. But since he passed away, everybody's just questioning what he would have said or what he would have thought. But since Chuck Norris was not at the philosophical expression and not at that level of where Bruce was, even though he's still living, he's not really having much of an impact on where the martial arts community today is heading towards. And that, it really shouldn't be like that. I think that people that's been there and done that, people that have gotten the fame, that lived through the glory and gotten all this attention, and they have a certain life experience and wisdom that should be instilled into the younger people. But I don't see him taking that role and stepping up and educating these people about what real martial arts really should be. It's just pretty much getting out of control, and it's not heading. The martial arts community today is not heading in the right direction, and people like him should be the ones stepping up and trying to put a stop to that, or just trying to redirect that into something more positive. But I don't see him doing that. Just let it go, let it be shit on, the reputation. And that's not how it's supposed to be. But video's gotten long enough. That's what I gotta say about Chuck.